Today I'm going to show you how I clean my pistol, my 1911, my Timber. Some of the things that I am using here, I have 3 rods. One has a nylon brush, this one has a copper brush, and this is my patch rod, a couple of rags, my patches, my solvent, and some Q-tips. And I also have to have a bushing wrench because this gun does have a full-length guide rod on it. The first thing that we need to do is make sure that it's not loaded, so we're going to drop the magazine out. No bullets in there, and rack the slide while pressing up on the slide stop to lock it open, and nothing in the chamber, so we're good to go. So first thing we need to do is take it apart. Again, drop the mag, check chamber, it's empty, so take our bushing wrench, push it on there and turn it clockwise, and let that the plunger come up into that, and then depress it. Turn that fully and let this out slowly. You gotta be careful in this part because that can come flying out of there. And pull that out. And I like to have a little tray to put my parts in so that they don't go wild all over. And then pull this back and line that disassembly notch up with the slide stop and pull it out. And now the whole slide will come off. Take the guide rod out. Push the link forward on the barrel. Turn the bushing the opposite direction, and now the bushing will come out. Now the whole barrel comes out of the slide. And as you can see, it's pretty filthy. It's probably got about 500 rounds through it. The last couple of days I've been shooting it quite a bit, made quite a mess of it. So we're going to get it cleaned up. And then we can take our rag and start wiping stuff off, all of the old oil and all of the stuff that's built up on it, all the burnt powder. Clean out the locking lugs. Just wipe them off good, and we'll set the frame and the slide aside for right now. Set them over here. Don't need our wrench anymore. Get out some solvent, put it on a patch, and run it into the barrel. Just wipe it around in there, just get it good and moist. Any other parts where you can see a lot of carbon buildup, just kind of wipe it across and get it soaking. Now we're going to set that aside for a moment. And we will start with the frame, and what we're going to do first is just wipe it out. Just wipe off all that burnt carbon. I like to run the rag up through the mag well. The carbon buildup off of the ejector, which is this piece right here, and this is the disconnector. Be sure and wipe everything out of it. Now you never want to drop the hammer on these, but you can lower it with your thumb, but never fire it without the slide in place. And up front, wipe all this out in here, and then I'll use Q-tip to clean this out. Get in there and get all that stuff that's built up, unburnt powder, little flecks of brass. And the next thing we're going to go to is the slide, which is pretty much just going to be the same thing. I do like to take some of the solvent from the patch and just wipe it across the breech face, because there is a lot of carbon buildup in this area. And then we're going to wipe out the rest of all of this carbon buildup down in here. Pull the rag through this part. Take the Q-tip and clean out the locking lugs. there in the hood. And I like to pull off the tip of the Q-tip and depress it into the rail notch here and pull out all of the stuff that's built up in there, all the old grease and oil and junk that's built up in there. That looks pretty good. Okay, now we're going to pull off another end of that Q-tip and stick it in here. Use the Q-tip and this just gets it down in there further and get all of this carbon out. Move back to our barrel. Now we've had it soaking for a minute. I'm going to put some more solvent on the patch. Run her back in there again, get it good and wet. Set this aside. Now we're going to brush it with a copper brush. Push it all the way through and all the way out. Dry patch, and we're going to run it in there and just wipe out what solvent is in there. As you can see, it's pretty dirty. I'm going to take my copper bristle brush off and we're going to put a bore mop on now. I'm going to place the patch over the chamber and push it through. As you can see, the patches are coming out a little bit cleaner, but we still have a little bit more work to do here. Let's see, there's still quite a bit of stuff in there that we need to work on. So I'm going to keep doing this process until I can push one of those out that looks clean. Getting pretty close to where it's coming out pretty clean and there's not a whole lot left in there, so I'm going to call that good. The parts of the gun that need lubrication, you're going to, of course, the frame and where the slide and the frame go together, that's going to need lubrication. I like to use just a little bit of grease on the frame rails, and then I will put oil in the slide itself. Now I'll stand it up on end like this and just put a drop of oil in each slot and let it run down. I'll just put that aside for a minute as it's running down. The barrel itself, it's going to need a drop. Just a little one, and just smear it around. Just a good even, just a thin film of oil up here on the locking lugs. A little drop there and a little drop inside too. Smear it around a little bit. And the link, the swinging link on the barrel, I've already got some oil in it, so it's ready to go. And the guide rod, the recoil guide rod, just kind of the same as the barrel, just a little bit. Does not take much. And let's see, now we're pretty much ready to go back together. Yep, that's all come down to the bottom. Looks good. So we will go ahead and start reassembling. The first thing we're going to do is put a barrel in. Link needs to be forward. Slide it in, and then the barrel bushing. And I've wiped this off and it's good and clean. I'm going to turn it in there until it locks, and then put the guide rod in. Link needs to be lifted. And I've got a shock buff on here. This helps absorb some of the recoil. And then you can slide the recoil spring in. Push it till it clicks. And now we can go ahead and put the slide on the frame. I push the barrel in there and you can see the link through the slide lock hole, and then push the slide until the disassembly notch lines up with the slide stop. Now this is another place that does need lubrication. Put a drop of oil on the slide stop pin. And just make sure that it has a good even coat all the way around. Put it back in. Push up. This part's a little tricky. There, now it's in. Push that back forward. Put the plunger back on the recoil spring. Press it in with your thumb and turn the bushing until it catches it. And you can use the bushing wrench to turn it the rest of the way on. Rack the slide a few times and then clean off any oil and grease that has come out of the back of the frame in the slide. And there she is, she's all clean. One of the last things we need to do here is clean the magazines. What you're going to do is depress that follower down there into the magazine as far as you can, and then stick something through the sight holes and capture the spring, and then you can pull the follower off of the spring and then release the spring, pull it out, and you got to be sure and keep, there is a front on this, that little loop goes forward and that catches on this little notch on the follower when it's sitting in there, so that has to go back in the same way. The magazine tube itself, I like to clean with a clean bore mop. You just run it in there and brush out all of the carbon that's built up. And this one's really already clean. So, and then wiping off all of any carbon buildup that's gotten on the spring. Clean it off really good. You can stick the spring back in the tube. And the follower needs attention. It's actually is probably the dirtiest piece in the magazine. You have to scrape off some of the carbon buildup on it. Let's get it nice and clean again. And then reassembly, you got to push that spring down in there and push the follower in. Push it back down again and capture the spring again. Pull that up to the top and release the spring, and that should snap back into place. Yep, so that the spring is now attached again to the follower. That's all there is to cleaning the magazine. Not a whole lot to it, but it is an important step. Another quick trick I guess I could show you. If for any reason you need to look on the inside, if you're wanting to see how dirty it is, you can apply some pressure with your finger on that slide stop pin right there, and you got to be careful, but just rack the slide back and that pin will pop right out, and then let that slide forward. Carefully now, you've got to hold on because that spring is under tension in there. Pull that right off of the frame, and you can look in there, and as you can see, everything's good and clean. Then you can put her back together. You got to push down on the barrel because the link and the barrel are not hooked up right now, and that link is what pivots on this pin right here. So you got to push down on the barrel when you're sliding that back, and pull it back till that disassembly notch is lined up. And you can see I hold it with my finger like that, and then put the slide stop back in, and you got to look in there and make sure that the barrel link is lined up. Push that through the hole, snap that into place, and she's back together.